In the spirit of honesty, it has been a few days since I initiated coverage on this channel with Amaranth at Focus, and it was not my intention to do so. There's such a thing, it's my Achilles heel in life, called scheduling, and it makes everything complicated. But also, many of you know it's a particular goal of mine to manifest music coverage as a greater role here on the channel, adjacent to other entertainment expressions. And because of that, I consider a wide berth of names and different standings and different geographies even, and it's a pretty grand scale. So there's a lot of groups I'm shuffling around in terms of coverage. But Amaranth, I had a lot of fun on a first introduction, especially bringing another European rock and metal talent on this channel, which many of you know how much I love that space, and one that was of such a notable regard for me. They sit in a very interesting place in that I think back on my history with European rock and metal talents, and many of which that I feature on this channel, of course, and I'm sure a number of you could attest to this, are based on first introductions, whether they be from names in passing to me, or from collaborations where I learned certain names, or in general cases, based on many of your recommendations, and it's a good supply of names that I am slowly sifting through, and Amaranth is just the most recent one of a couple. I think back to what brought me in, and there were some foundational groups, a few of them, but Amaranth, I looked them up at a time where I discovered them, maybe I should say in better wording, when I had not featured music on this channel as much, let alone European music, and I remember just, shuffling around on YouTube, seeing what was available, and they happened to pop up. And ever since I first heard their music, that being 365 was the initial piece, I've been a big fan. And the tracks you've covered thus far on this channel, 5 in total. 4 technically, one being the orchestral version of Crystalline. Or Crystalline, I forget how they pronounce that one. It was different from what I originally went with. Anyway, those were great pieces to humor. I love Swedish metal. The electronic pop flair is really jiving with me, and the vocal talents here on part of everybody. Formerly Henrik, who has now left the group, unfortunately, I know, for understandable circumstances, but his voice truly, for me, I love growl with a sense of rap. That was just so individual for my European current standing playlist. Very specialized, so his name has good regard, at least in the way that I think on it, but also the complementary vocalists as well on part of Elise Reed and Nils Molin. I love Nils. And especially when they overlap. Sing in isolation, both are extremely talented on range, but the overlap even of all three, there's a good balance here in terms of vocal stylings mixed with an incredible force of style and such a unique expression. I really come to like Amaranth. And I figured, in going through them, I'm taking a bit of an unorthodox mapping in how I approach their work, admittedly. I specified this as well in earlier coverage, that I started with more recent pieces. And of course, I'm aware from a number of you, and been noting this to me in the comments, that there's currently a new album in development. I can't wait. I'm ready the minute something drops. As far as I'm concerned, door is open for Amaranth. I can't wait to humor new stuff, especially with the new vocalists they're bringing on. Whoever, I forget if maybe there's been a name mentioned, but I can't wait to hear how the new heavy vocals will sound from whatever new personality is I get to have a first introduction to, perhaps. Anywho, maybe it'll be familiar to him, I don't know. But with Amaranth, I look at the scale of artists I cover. I try to be, as I said before, democratic and fair to the a total count of tracks I will consult per group. And on a case-by-case basis, I might diverge from a smaller selection, right? It depends. And sometimes I come to regret maybe not giving a larger or full album spotlight. It depends. But with Amaranth, I had originally planned out about 4 songs. I'm like, that's just not enough. I've given other European groups much grander of a share in total count. So why not broaden it out and take it, as I said, a bit of an orthodox mapping, in that we started with the more recent pieces and now we're going back, recycling with the most recent album, a good selection of the tracks, maybe not all of them, but a good selection of what I've picked out, starting with Fearless. I'm here to deepen my understanding. Again, I've heard a couple of their works in passing, of course, many of which were from having the simultaneous experience, perhaps, of entertaining them with you. Or you're getting the perspective from someone who's, I'm knowledgeable as well, but I'm sure many of you are much more advanced than me in years in regards to your Amaranth familiarity. You're taking in the perspective of a newer initiate listener, especially on first introductions. But some of you perhaps are sharing in a simultaneous journey with me and venturing down the European territory. If you've never gone down there before, I cannot speak highly of it enough. You're going to be entertained. If you're into electronic pop metal or punk metal, hard rock, heavy metal, there's a lot of tones that Amaranth plays with. It's a great mixture and beautiful vocal stylings. I can't wait to entertain Fearless with you. That is the first work, at least lined up tonight. As I said, a good selection of per their own individual videos of a track, sure to follow. So, Fearless. I'm going to go ahead and launch the video that corresponded, and we can take that the scenery of Amaranth in as well. I'm sure of an exquisite piece, as well as, if you're not familiar with my coverage, maybe my work is new to you. I do feature the lyrics in my videos to suit your taste. If you'd like to read along with the message, those will be provided for you. You'll see those pop up in a minute as soon as the song initiates. All right. Live and ready. Ready and eager. I have to say, with how much time I spend with Swedish metal, there are certain consistencies. This opener, kind of feeling like a little... Oh, I love that electronic emphasis in the background. That twang, it's just... Oh, it's excellent. That riff pacing, it's so thorough. See, wonderful switchings. Love it. Again, everything is just so tight. Ah, there's the overlap. I gotta tell you, I've said it many times, electronic metal. Sweden is specifically growing a love for me in that environment. It's just amazing to me how invigorating this is. Neil single-handedly just has this nostalgic element to him. It's so fun. It's like classic rock and roll. Those lighter electronic tones, just the more I think about them, they're very Metalite-esque, at least from, again, my understanding, but they just add such a wonderful dimension here that feels so unique, again, to American groups especially. And everything with this song is so creative. Those background operatic vocalizations, I remember the choir, like... That's a wonderful piece. Inspirational, motivational, well-written, and beautifully performed. So much fun. I've said many times on this channel, it is a goal of mine. As much as these videos are, and I'm sure many would probably imagine this if you don't necessarily vocalize it, I'm sure there's been certain thoughts that it's quite a subjective experience. I want this to the best extent that I can. I've said many times, music for me is such a deep bind with my life. I have such a close connection to it that for me transcends other forms of artistic enjoyment. And every individual artistic expression, as I've said, is uniquely stylized and is preferential, I'm sure, to general audiences in terms of what we favor and what we don't. And each has a very unique effect in how it moves us and how it articulates its illustrativeness into our lives and impacts us and experience. Music for me, I have such a deep love for it that the experience of sharing, in part, sharing, yes, I'm trying to give it maybe a better word, inspiring future paths for other prospective listeners. If I can in any way humor that, right? Because I know many of you, and I always say I kind of fall back in my understanding of this based on most people do, I would imagine, your own personal experiences. You look to your social surroundings. I do quite often. I consider that most of my peers in my real life, or face-to-face life, have no connection to me in regards to music tastes. And I don't say this to be all boastful, high and mighty. I feel like they're kind of in a space of wanting. When I examine the art in the world, which is maybe not treaded ground for everybody. But I consider the love that I have for the European metal scene, what in part has been compelled by a number of you, again, finding your frequent recommendations, as well as, our pleasant back and forths. I love the exchanges we have in the comments, especially as somebody, again, who is just taking initial steps into this space, right? I'm learning from many of you. I'm sensing that deep connection that, for me, again, just reminds me I'm not as isolated as I oftentimes feel. I like how music can be, in some ways, a fellowship experience, and I want these videos to highlight that. I hope that Amaranth, with as much reverence as I have for them, and as much strength and potency as they have as a band, I hope that's being sensed with you as well. I admire the character of Fearless quite a bit. Like I said, exquisite writing, beautifully inspirational song, and a great tone to match. It feels very fittingly accelerated, with such creative dimension, particular Swedish elements that are of notable regard. As I said, Metalite, Direct Connection. I also recommend them if you've never entertained their work before. We've covered them on the channel, in fact, previously, and they're an incredible group. Beautiful vocalist there with Erica Olsson, just like Amaranth, on part of a combination here between, as I said, Enrique, Elise, and Nils. Nils just impresses me so much. Like I said, I get nostalgia throwbacks every time I hear him because it's like classic rock and roll with close American comparables. But it's just so much fun. Maybe in part it's the hair. I don't know. But it's just great. I love especially when they overlap. That dual presence on part. And again, Ari kind of plays that background role in part of a scream because it might not, as you read the lyrics, it's not meshed with Elise and Nils. But their pairing on the clean side, it's just so exquisite. I love the trade-off structure as well, how it starts from one to the other, kind of jumps around. Different vocal placements with such a beautifully emphasized musical tone. The adventurousness, I said, of that piece, the creative freedom of it, the electronic vibrations, especially like on the instrumental break, I think, that was beautifully paced. The background choir integration as well, at least a choir effect, on behalf of Elise. There's just so much here to enjoy. And again, if you're familiarized to the Swedish metal scene specifically, you'll catch specific tones that, as I've said, are quite consistent, but beautifully articulated in a way that, as I've said before, I'm much more of like the headbang type metal guy, even though I keep broad tastes intentionally. And there's a lot of ballad songs I like in that direction as well. Music is a very, as I said, preferential experience based on subjective taste. And even in the metal scene, there's a variety of favoritism. But electronic rock, I think back with my history of it, and yeah, I'm not a big EDM guy. With some exception to groups that I've heard, again, creatively interweave electronic influences into their music constructions, usually in terms of as an associated element. And there's many groups I could name off, Amaranth being one such. And it's been a mainstay with Sweden. Again, I think of the good share of groups I've cited at this point, whether they be familiarized listeners to me or maybe on this channel in context, first introductions we had at one point that I'm much more knowledgeable on now. Animavale, Fall of a Cipher, Dead by April, Metalite, and now Amaranth. It's amazing to me the consistency, but just how fresh it is. I've really come to love electronic metal on part of Sweden. It's amazing to me. And again, as I've said many times, and feel free if you're knowledgeable on the Swedish rock, and maybe you're Swedish yourself and you can better speak to this, is it a particular mainstay on part of Swedish music culture in the rock scene, but there is such an electronic emphasis? Because it's so funny to me, considering all these different groups all come from the same country, or at least they originated there, and they're attributed as such, and they all have that mainstay element. It's fascinating to me. Even if there is a bit of a diversification across Europe, electronic metal is so centralized in Sweden. It's fascinating. But the way that Amaranth conducts their pieces and orchestrates them, I'm floored by how successful that is. Beautifully accelerated tune with a highly invigorating energy, great replay. I can't wait to put this on in my car. The other pieces sounded quite good. I love that piece. And I hope you did too. Whether you are a new listener of theirs or if this is a familiarized tune, because it's been out for a little while, I'd love to hear your angle of approach as well as your thoughts down below. I'm obviously game to hear more, as I said. It wasn't my intention to take a pause of Amaranth. And I would have liked to get back on the ball with things, considering those first few pieces we entertained were so strong. And as a resuming piece, we're off to the races, apparently. Next, 4 more incoming, at least from what I have lined up. But as far as an entry to resume the experience, I picked well with Fearless in terms of being the first number to consult with. Great energy, beautiful personality. Love that vocal. Again, I can't get over the vocal balance of part of everybody here. It's such an excellent team. I can't wait to hear how it evolves into the future as well, but Exodus just has such a wonderful presence to it on introduction that is so staple Amaranth, and I'm captivated by that piece. It's really good. Every way. Tight. Fearless, certainly in its adventurism, right, to play off the wording. I love music like that. And Fearless is a very invigorating listen. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.